Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. The Full Time podcast is presented and powered by 91 Network. You are listening to Season 5, Episode 22 of Full Time. I am your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The Full Time Podcast is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their two locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The Full Time Podcast is also sponsored by Sioux Sports. Check out Sioux Sports and all of their articles, announcements, and streaming platforms, including True House Media and True North Radio. Visit SiouxSports.com as well as Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Remind our listeners that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi weekly as well. Folks, we welcome you back to Full Time, where we get to talk about all things the beautiful game. G, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to record this podcast. I'm excited to go lay out in the sun for a little bit after this. And only kidding, but it is beautiful out. It's just been a great start this weekend. How about you?
Oh, lovely start indeed, and the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. I got to do some cross country skiing earlier this morning. It was a great deal of fun, and yeah, all is good in my neck of the woods for sure. In today's show, we will discuss Europe's Big Five, the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and the MLS. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on all platforms of 91 Network. And without further ado, Gaetano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We're going to get into Europe's Big Five. We are currently on international break, and we're going to get things started with the Premier League. Liverpool hold a 12-point lead over second place Arsenal. Liverpool has 70 points to Arsenal's 58. Nottingham Forest remain third with 54 points. In fourth is Chelsea with 49 points. Manchester City is fifth with 48 points. Trying to still get into those top five places are the likes of Newcastle, Brighton, Fulham, Aston Villa, and Bournemouth. Gitano, basically half of the table is battling for Champions League places right now, even though we're on a pause for international break, and that's just the way that it seems. So what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I remember like the mid 2010s of like the Premier League, where it was a very distinct you had maybe I remember like Tottenham kind of getting their way into like the big six,
Yeah,
because even then they weren't that. And now we're looking at it's like you're almost looking at like a big half the league. um, it's going to be awful that at least five or six of these teams aren't going to qualify for at least the Champions League. They'll qualify for some sort of European competition, but like realistically, the Premier League could have you know almost I would say maybe seven or eight like legitimate Champions League quality clubs playing in Europe. And even the ones that aren't maybe Champions League quality still would be fantastic additions in Europa League or Conference League. It's just incredible the depth of the Premier League as we're seeing it right now.
yeah, I think you just said it perfectly, better than I certainly could. That the depth of the Premier League is just so good, and the quality that is there is so good. And this is what fans have longed for, right? A little bit of parity in the league, not knowing who's going to be involved in outside of the traditional Big Six. So I think that it's definitely a good thing indeed at this moment in time, despite the fact that Liverpool seem to be runaway winners. And in the relegation zone, it has gone from bad to worse. Wolves increased their gap to 9 points between them and the bottom three. Gitano, this might be the last conversation that we have here on Full Time regarding the relegation battle until someone is mathematically actually relegated, which could be happening in the next few games. Is there anything to be said on the bottom three right now?
Not particularly. I was honestly going to suggest that maybe we start talking about like the top end of the championship to see who's coming up next year, because at this point it's pretty much written in the stars for Ipswich, Leicester, and Southampton that they will be in the championship next year.
Yeah, without doubt. And I think, like I said, this probably will be our last conversation on it until somebody actually gets mathematically relegated. So we will certainly keep an eye on the championship because for anybody who's tuned in there's some really cool things happening at the top of the table. So that is definitely where our focus is going to shift to moving forward in upcoming episodes. Out in Spain, it's La Liga that turned heads constantly. Barcelona and Real Madrid are joint top of the table with 60 points each, but Barcelona have a game in hand. Atletico Madrid slipped down a few points as they have lost their last 2 games. They have 56 points. Athletic Club is fourth with 52 points, and Villarreal as well as Real Betis are battling for the fifth position. Atletico and Barcelona that game that they had last weekend, unbelievable. Atletico had them right where they wanted them, up 2-0. Barcelona come back, win 4-2. Incredible scenes there. How impactful do you think that could be down the stretch in this season?
I mean, like mathematically, just looking at the table, it's huge. Barca get, the 3 points. Now they're 4 points clear of Atletico, still have the game in hand on both Real and Atletico Madrid. So like just the math works out that it's a fantastic, like boost for them. But I also just think the morale boost for that Barcelona squad is saying, hey, we went down 2-0, came back, won, top of the table. It's going to be a huge boost for them. And I don't want to say it's going to totally burst Atletico Madrid's bubble because they've been fantastic in all competitions all season. But I definitely think that, kind of following the Champions League elimination to Real Madrid, it's just like, two big gut punches, right? Kind of back to back. And maybe it won't destroy their whole season, but it's definitely not a great a vibe around Atletico Madrid right now.
Not at this moment in time for sure, but definitely Real morale, not Real morale for Barcelona for sure. Being 2-0 down, being able to claw their way back, that's going to breed, I think, a lot of confidence in that squad for what happens moving forward in the league. And we've got a heck of a title race there. Can't wait to see what unfolds week in, week out. Serie A in Italy is keeping us on our toes as well, and it is Inter who have their noses out in front. They are top of the table with 64 points. Napoli is second with 61 points. Atalanta is still in third with 58 points. Bologna has moved into fourth for the first time this season as they have won 4 of their last 5 matches. They have 53 points. Gitano, your thoughts on Italy's top flight right now?
Yeah, I think Napoli, the 0-0 draw at Venezia last weekend really is a big blow for them. Venezia have been one of the worst teams in the league. Not that it should have been an easy 3 points, but it's definitely a game you need to be winning at this point in the season. So definitely now I think it's like full on advantage Inter. And we've seen them in this position before in these tight races, and they've not let it slip recently. So I feel like this is a huge, huge boost for them. Also crazy seeing Bologna now, above Juve, above Lazio and Roma into like Champions League spot. That would be quite the story for them.
Oh, would it ever? And like I said, we really hadn't talked about Bologna all season. Last season, we did a fair bit because they did manage to get into the top 4. But this season, they've been relatively quiet, but they've kind of come out of nowhere, shall we say. So along with that, we'd have to say for sure Inter now gaining some momentum, similar to what we just talked about with Barcelona. So another very good title race to keep an eye on after the international break. In Germany's Bundesliga, Bayer Leverkusen refused to throw in the towel. They are now 6 points behind league leaders Bayern Munich. Gitano, the gap has been condensed at the top just a little bit from the last time that we spoke. So with 8 games to go, it looks like there is still a fair bit on the line, would you say?
Yeah, and so last week we were talking about how Bayern Munich lost and then Leverkusen lost, kind of gave up that little bit of advantage they were looking for. Bayern Munich drew last weekend. Bayer Leverkusen get the win. That 2 points closer. It's not over.
Not over.
It's not likely to be anything but a Bayern Munich Bundesliga win. But it's not over yet. There's a little bit of life in the Bundesliga, and I'm really excited to see how this all plays out. I'm gonna see. Are we gonna see Harry Kane finally win his trophy? We're gonna see. Vinny Company in his first major European job in management. How is he gonna deal with this stress? When for a lot of the season, I don't want to say they were coasting, but they were doing very well, and he didn't really have this pressure. I'm super interested to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, me too. And as long as it can stay interesting, that for us as neutral fans would be best case scenario. And in France's League 1, PSG inch ever closer to the title. They now have 68 points to second place Marseille, who has 49 points. Monaco, Nice, Lyon, Lille, and Strasbourg are all fighting for the Champions League spot, that final one, because they out there in France only get 3. Gitano, PSG is just 2 wins away mathematically from having the league won. They could very well have the league wrapped up with 6 games to spare, which is pretty mind-blowing. What are your thoughts here, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we've kind of had this discussion a lot over the years of PSG running away with league and having it wrapped up by the end of March. But just the way they've done it this year has been so different from anything else we've seen. We've talked about it all season. Like, it's a legitimate, like, it's a team. It's not just pass it to Mbappe, pass it to Ibra, pass it to Messi. Like, this is a legitimate team. A unit of 11 plus their bench. They've just been fantastic all year. My only thing for them is I hope that they don't do what kind of the PSG teams of old did. And I say old in quotations. It's not that they weren't that old, but where it was, once the season was wrapped up, they kind of took their foot off the gas in the league. And I think that affected them in the Champions League. All their Champions League performances, never really being able to push through, only getting to the one final and losing. I really want to see them kind of, keep their heads down, focus on, like, just to the end of the season, just really, really focus on that, because we know they've got Liga wrapped up right now. But I want to see them keep that intensity that they're playing domestically. I want to see that carry over into Europe, see what they can really do here.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. And you would know better than pretty much anybody, being a City fan, how long can you keep the hunger, right? And that's what great teams will do. They'll keep the hunger no matter what's already in the bag. You got to be wanting more. So definitely loving what PSG have done this season, and loving the look of that team. And we're going to see what happens with them moving forward, both domestically and in Europe. Moving on to the next segment of our show, it was the Carabao Cup final that had the wider footballing community buzzing. It was Liverpool who took on Newcastle at Wembley Stadium for the first major trophy of the season this past Sunday. On the stroke of halftime, it was a goal from local hero and Newcastle defender Dan Burn from a corner kick that put Newcastle out in front going into the break. A quick start from Newcastle in the second half would see them go up 2 goals after Alexander Isak converted from close range. Isak also had a goal ruled out moments earlier for offside, but he would not be denied on his second chance in front of the Liverpool goal. At the end of the 90 minutes, it was confirmed by the fourth official that there would be a total of 8 minutes of stoppage time to be played. And with 4 minutes to go in the stoppage time, Liverpool's Federico Chiesa was played through on goal and would make the most of his chance. The goal was originally ruled out for offside, but was overturned by VAR as the replay indicated that he was in an onside position. With the game now 2-1, it was an all-out Liverpool attack for the remaining minutes of stoppage time, but Newcastle was more than able to hold on and hold out. After 70 long years, it is Newcastle United who claim a major trophy. They are the winners of the 2025 Carabao Cup. Gitano, this was absolutely incredible, this game was, and we were texting back and forth of how awesome that it was, and the scenes and the elation in Wembley Stadium. I'm really not sure that we can say otherwise, but I'm just looking forward to hearing your initial reaction here.
I've never been happier to be wrong in my life, Scarps. I was so happy to see Newcastle win, and I was like equally, if not more, happy to see Liverpool lose. That was a generational hate watch, if we're going to be totally honest. Like, that was fantastic to watch. Newcastle are so good. If City didn't have Erling Haaland, I would be begging Sheikh Mansour to buy Alexander Isak. He is incredible. One of the top 3 or 4 strikers in the entire world. Newcastle, they can afford to pay him. With their ownership. But there's going to be a lot of clubs looking to get his signature this summer. And I mean, he's won a major trophy now at Newcastle. Maybe hopefully he sticks around there. I like that story. But just an incredible game. I need to apologize to Tino Livramento. I said that he wouldn't do a great job replacing Lewis Hall at left back, and he held Mo Salah to 0.00 expected goals. Like, Salah created nothing. It was just an incredible performance from Newcastle, and just so well deserved for the players, for the management, but mostly for the fans. Like that, like you said, 70 years. That's I can't even like fathom that. Like, supporting a team for 70 years, not seeing them win a major trophy, and then you finally get that one. Like, that's just got to be the best feeling. That's going to feel like a treble and that must feel like an invincible treble for them. Like, honestly, like, just the weight of the world off their shoulders. It's just fantastic.
Nothing short of amazing, Gitano, no doubt about that. And we are going to talk a little bit first here about the winners, Newcastle, to your point. Their last 9 trips to Wembley for cup finals all resulted in losses. With this win, it ends an unprecedented run of sorrow for the Geordies as they win their first major trophy since 1955, when they won the FA Cup. Newcastle, to your point earlier, so good in the game, defensively solid and resolute in possession. They had very clear ideas, and from set pieces, I actually thought that they were just outstanding, and they really took Konate and Van Dijk out of the game. They played all their set pieces really long to try and pull them out. It was remarkable to see. I thought Eddie Howe did a phenomenal job in organizing that team for the game. So if you could just kind of give us your thoughts and analysis on Newcastle, because they were the better team on the day and totally deserved to win.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at the more advanced stats, like Liverpool dominated possession, which nobody really, you know, everyone saw that coming. Nobody is surprised by that. But I mean, expected goals, shots on target, big chances, like all of that dominated by Newcastle. Um, you know, and even when you look like Newcastle, yes, there was only 6 shots on target, but 17 shots total. Liverpool only got 7 shots total the entire game, only 2 of them on target. Um, it just speaks, I think, to how well that defensive unit is playing. Even like I said, with Lewis Hall out and Tino Livramento in there, like that is incredible against one of the kind of most heavy firepower offense-driven teams in Europe, in Liverpool. It was just incredible to watch. And then, like you said, just on set pieces specifically, Dan Burn is just a unit. And yeah, they just I don't want to say they tore Liverpool apart, but they just outplayed them in every way they could. They knew they weren't going to win the possession game. Let Liverpool have it. They want to almost double their accurate passes. Great, go for it. But it was no dangerous passing, no dangerous offense. It was just an Eddie Howe masterclass. We're going to be totally honest.
It was, and I, speaking of Dan Burn there, I was really surprised that Liverpool went zonal in terms of marking from the set pieces, particularly from the corner kicks. To me, that just didn't make much sense. When you got somebody that big and strong in the air, you're going to want to stick a body on them. So I did find that to be a little bit odd. But yeah, Newcastle were just in every aspect, they were amazing throughout the entire game, and they were a joy to watch in that match. And it was a very enticing cup final for sure. And we do have to talk a little bit about Liverpool. They were less than their best coming into the cup final, as they got bounced from the Champions League at the hands of PSG just days before the Carabao Cup final. Liverpool were not able to rebound and get this one over the line, Gitano. So for you, was it that Liverpool, played poorly? Was it that Newcastle were just too good on the day? Was it a bit of both? Because the way that I'm looking at it, it was more so that Newcastle played Liverpool, but Liverpool they didn't look we'll call it fresh, if I'm being perfectly honest.
They looked like Man City have looked all year for me, where it's just like, you can hold the ball for 70-odd% of the game. You can make all your passes in your U shape backwards in your back line. But if you don't, make those incisive passes, you don't make those forward passes, you don't push, you're not really going to win games. They looked physically and emotionally exhausted. And I think obviously losing to PSG and being eliminated from the Champions League in the days prior definitely, doesn't help that. But yeah, I think they basically played right into what Eddie Howe wanted. So yeah, they didn't play like poorly, but they just didn't play well. And when a Newcastle side is that well drilled and have their tactics down and play to that level, yeah, you're just not going to beat them.
Well, without doubt, and it's football is a crazy game in so many different ways. But we talk about it all the time, the ups and downs of football. A week prior, everyone's talking about Liverpool winning a potential treble, and in the space of 1 week, they only are now competing for one trophy, and that's how football goes, isn't it?
Well, here's the thing, Scarp. So they're going to finish this season with the same amount of trophies as Man City because City won the Community Shield in September. Like that's football.
That's football. It is, and it's totally fascinating. And I will give a mention as well to Kieran Trippier, yet another player who left Tottenham and went on to win a trophy. So that does, Gitano, that does bring the Carabao Cup to a close. Newcastle only conceding 1 goal the entire competition as well. Can never bet against a team really who's that sound defensively. So congratulations to them. The first major trophy in English football for the season goes the way of Newcastle, and now the Geordies will push for European qualification through league play to round out the campaign. Your 2025 Carabao Cup champions, Newcastle United. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you are listening to the Full Time Podcast on 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza and Sioux Sports. Check out the Pizza Portal app for a quicker, easier way to get your next hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. And be sure to check out Sioux Sports at siouxsports.com and Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. The FA Cup quarterfinals are imminent, and we will take you through the matchups and our predictions here and now. But just before we do that, to review our picks from last round, we both went 5 for 8. We both got Burnley wrong. We also both got Wolves wrong. You picked Newcastle to go through, and unfortunately they didn't. And I picked United to go through. Very dumb. They didn't go through either. So both of us are 5 for 8. Your thoughts on that?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I think that's a lot better than my the Champions League where I went 2 for 8 or something. I'll take 5 for 8.
Yeah, definitely 5 for 8. We're we're level. We'll call that the feeling of when you get a draw. Not
exactly.
Yeah, not too bad. Not the worst. Let's go through these quarterfinal matchups here, Gitano. Some really enticing ones here that we're going to be looking at and discussing. And let's first start with Fulham up against Crystal Palace. A lot on the line here with two relatively comparable teams. Gitano, who do you like to win this one and move on to the semifinals of this competition?
This is tough. I think so. I initially want to say Fulham. They've just been doing better domestically all season. I think they've got a little more. Their squad's a little more well-rounded than I think Crystal Palace. But I do think their focus is right now going to be mostly on getting European football next season. And I think, if I'm Fulham's manager, my priorities would be European football for next season. So I would be not feeling like a weaker team, but I would be resting some of the star players against Palace here. So I'm going to lean to Crystal Palace. It'll still be close though.
Yeah, I can't see this game not being close. And this one for me is a total toss-up. You might as well flip a coin. I am going to go with Fulham only because I have liked the way that they looked in this competition. I think that they've been pretty sound, and I've liked, quite frankly, the way that they've looked all season. I know Crystal Palace started the season really slow. They seem now to be hitting some good form, but I do like Fulham's consistency, and for that reason, I am going to take them. But for me, a total 50-50 toss-up for sure. Brighton will take on Nottingham Forest in this round of the competition. Gitano, these are two teams who are fighting to get into the European places domestically, and in this competition, they will be fighting to get into the semifinals. Who will do it?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny, with Fulham, I was saying they're going to be focused on Europe. Both of these teams are still going to be focused on Europe as well. So, I don't think they're really going to particularly rest their players, considering their relative positions in the table. I think, again, this is pretty much a 50-50. I think I'm just going to take Brighton. I think they just have a little more Forest are a little more of a well-rounded team. I think Brighton have a little more star power in them. So I'm going to lean Brighton here.
Yeah, and again, I'm with you in the sense that it is a 50-50 toss-up. I am going to go Nottingham Forest only because I think, we talked about it with the Liverpool and Newcastle Carabao Cup final. Brighton, I don't think anyone is going to disagree that they're going to have the majority of possession. And I do think that Nottingham Forest will be incredibly patient and just wait for their moments to counterattack. And I think at some point they'll catch Brighton out. And I think that ultimately will be the difference. But again, to your point, I think this is a total toss-up. So it could be either one, but I'm going to go Nottingham Forest. Championship side Preston will take on Aston Villa in this round of the competition. Gitano, Preston have had an amazing run in this competition, and now they run into Aston Villa. Does Preston's run in this competition continue, or does it come to an end in this game?
I think they have a better chance than people might kind of initially think. I think with Villa's focus on their Champions League quarterfinal.
Yep.
And then also wanting to secure European football for next season, I think the FA Cup right now is kind of their third priority. And again, that's no disrespect to the FA Cup or a game against Preston, but I think Villa just have much bigger fish to fry. I feel like this is, if they're going to rest players, if you're going to take an opportunity in kind of March, April to rest players, it'll be this game. I think Preston are going to get it real close. I still think Villa have just enough quality, even with their bench and maybe some of the reserve kids coming up to get through, but it's going to be a lot closer than people think. But I do think Aston Villa will still get through.
Gitano, you make so many great points there, and I do agree with you in the sense that it probably is third on their priority list, Aston Villa, in terms of what they're aiming for. Probably really focusing on the Champions League, making sure that they can qualify for Europe through the league. But I do believe to your final point there, just with the depth that Aston Villa has, the kids and the other players that they could bring off of the bench, the business that they did in January, I still think that's enough to get past Preston. We both didn't take Preston last round. They bounced Burnley 3-0. So I do anticipate a pretty close contest, but I think that in terms of quality, Aston Villa will have enough to get over the line. So we will agree there for the first time in these picks. And finally, it's Bournemouth who will take on Manchester City to see who can punch their ticket into a semi-final match. G, it will be your Manchester City looking to get past Bournemouth. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so it's funny. I said, in the last segment that Liverpool and City are going to end the season with the same amount of trophies. City actually could have more trophies than Liverpool at the end of this season. But it's not going to be easy. Bournemouth is probably the hardest of the potential draws that City could have gotten, which is just, the way this season's gone for us is, pretty much this. I think it's going to be super tight. But I think at this point, not that City aren't going to be focused on qualifying for Europe in the Premier League, but I think for any chance of silverware for us for the rest of the season, it's just this. I think it's going to be a heavy influence on kind of the squad selection. I think we're going to kind of go all out here. So again, it's probably not going to be close. Bournemouth have been phenomenal this year. They've pushed City in the games that we've played them. But I am going to take City. I'm always going to take City.
Yeah, of course. And I'm with you in the sense that I think that Manchester City has to go incredibly strong for the game, treating this as, it is a knockout game, obviously. We do know that all the games in the FA Cup are. But if it's a chance to get some silverware this season, and, obviously it hasn't been the best season for City, but if you can end the season with a trophy, most teams and most clubs will take that. So I don't think Manchester City's indifferent to that, really. And I'm also going to take Manchester City for those reasons. So to review our picks, Gitano, you're going to take Crystal Palace, Brighton, Aston Villa, and Man City. I'm going to take Fulham, Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa, and Man City. And a reminder to our listeners that the next round of the FA Cup will take place on Saturday, March 29th and Sunday, March 30th. You can catch all 4 quarterfinal games on your local television sports network. The MLS has gotten its feet wet with the first few games under each team's belt this season. G, how have you enjoyed the start to this season, my friend?
As a Toronto FC fan, it's been terrible. Not that we expected anything, better than that. But as an MLS fan, it's been fantastic. Like you said, like last week we were talking about, it just sneaks up on you. Like all of a sudden it's March and the MLS is back. Like I swear we just talked about the MLS Cup final. So it's just so exciting to see it back, and the quality we've already seen through 3 or 4 match weeks has just been fantastic.
It really has been. And yeah, apart from Toronto FC, it's been great to catch some games. There's going to be a ton of them on tonight as well. And just fantastic all the way around indeed. And we'll take a look at the Eastern Conference here to start. Gitano, Inter Miami is atop of the conference with 10 points, as we pretty much expected. Philadelphia is second with 9 points. Columbus is third with 8 points. What's your take so far on the East?
Yeah, I mean, outside of, and I mean, it's only 4 games in, it's really hard to make these judgments right away. But I would say outside of kind of the New York teams not quite being up, higher up in the table like you'd expect, it looks pretty much what you'd expect with Inter Miami, Philly, and Columbus running the show. And obviously TFC and CF Montreal sitting near the bottom. It's pretty much exactly what you would have expected.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any huge surprises there, shall we say. But again, super early and hard to make any definitive judgment calls. But this is where we do stand after about 4 or 5 games played. And looking at the Western Conference, Vancouver is the only perfect team in the MLS with a record of 4 wins, 0 draws, and 0 losses. The likes of San Diego, St. Louis, and Colorado all share 8 points. Gee, how about this start to the season for Vancouver?
Yeah, I mean, even just the entire Western Conference, Vancouver, San Diego, St. Louis, Colorado, all up top, no sign, like Los Angeles, LAFC, I should say, is in 8th, Seattle's in 10th, and LA Galaxy are actually only sitting on 1 point through these 4 games, which is nuts. But yeah, it's just, Vancouver's been incredible. I'm not sure what's going on there, really. They just, they've always been kind of okay, like never fantastic, never totally terrible. They have just absolutely found new gear. And I know we've been saying it's only 4 games in, but, if this is the way you're going to start your season, like what a way.
Oh, without doubt. And, I don't know if that's going to continue because again, it's super early. Like any LA team at the bottom of the table, you would never think that, right? But that's where we are at this moment in time, and I certainly didn't expect Vancouver to start the season with this sort of hot streak. But again, it's early days in the MLS, and as time moves along, anything can happen. I also did want to give a shout out just before we wrap up this segment, and this kind of speaks to the integrity of provincial soccer here in Ontario. Former MLS coach Alan Koch has just been appointed as the Guelph Griffins men's soccer coach. So pretty reputable stuff, Gitano.
Jeez, that's okay. I didn't know about it. That's
Just
wow.
happened. Just happened. Like I only learned about this. So we played our indoor playoff game on Wednesday. So I learned Wednesday, and today is
Jeez,
Saturday at noon. So
jeez, that's wow.
yeah,
That's sick.
yeah. So again, MLS. This is why we often talk about it in our own backyard because it literally is in our backyard. So
So you're saying that this guy's going to be coaching games at Superior Heights next year, is what you're telling me?
and this is the best bit because the last 2 seasons, Algoma University has played on the road to Guelph, which means that this year that they will be coming here. So he'll be coaching at Superior Heights, which is I don't
Jeez.
know what you make of that. I know what I make of that.
Yeah, I mean, like it's cool for us, but yeah, wow.
Yeah. So again, very cool stuff in terms of relating the MLS to everything that happens right here at home, and it's one of the main reasons that we love covering it because there's so many cool storylines involved. And it is early days in the MLS, and all of the happenings in North America's top division still have a lot left to unfold. As always, you can get all of your Major League Soccer updates right here on Full Time. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you are listening to the Full Time Podcast on 91 Network. A reminder that the Full Time Podcast is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza and Sioux Sports. Check out the Pizza Portal app for a quicker, easier way to get your next hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. And be sure to check out Sioux Sports at siouxsports.com and Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we bring today's show to a close, we want to send all of you our thanks for tuning in to today's show. G, thank you for everything today, my friend.
Scarps, like always, thank you for having me. This is typically we record on the Thursday, but this is such like a nice, like easy way to start the weekend off. Chat the beautiful game with you. It's beautiful outside. It's just brilliant. So again, thank you for having me, and well done to yourself as well.
Thank you, sir. There's a lot to be thankful for, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the weekend, and I hope that you have a great one indeed, my friend. A reminder to our listeners, that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of March 31st, 2025. In that show, we will take a look at Europe's Big Five, the FA Cup, the Champions League, and the Europa League. As always, we will keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, be sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms of 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Podbean, and Spaces at SueToday.com. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Full Time Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.